Have you ever reached a point where your anger didn't come out in words, but in silence, so powerful it made people nervous? That's the dark strength of a Sigma empath. When they're hurt, they don't explode, they evolve. Their calm becomes colder, their eyes sharper, and their silence heavier than any argument could ever be. You see, a Sigma empath's anger isn't about revenge or noise. It's about revelation. They don't need to shout to be heard. They simply withdraw their energy, and suddenly everyone feels the shift. That's what makes them terrifying in the most elegant way. Their peace hits harder than rage ever could. Their calm says, "You lost access to me." And that realization breaks people more than any confrontation. This video will uncover why the quiet anger of a Sigma empath changes everything, how their composure turns into control, and how their silence becomes their most dangerous weapon. If you've ever reached that point where peace felt stronger than fury, you'll understand every word. So before we begin, subscribe to Brainy Empath, where we explore the power, psychology, and resilience behind emotional depth. Tell me in the comments, have you ever stayed silent and watched everything shift? Their silence during anger is more powerful than any outburst. When a Sigma empath gets angry, the room doesn't shake, it goes silent. There's no shouting, no slammed doors, no chaos, just a quiet stillness that makes people uneasy because they can feel the shift without understanding it. That's the paradox of the Sigma empath. Their silence isn't emptiness, it's energy withdrawing, truth compressing, and emotion transforming into something far more dangerous than rage, control. While others burn through their anger with noise, the Sigma empath absorbs it, studies it, and refines it into calm precision. Their silence becomes a mirror, forcing people to face what they've done without the distraction of words. Inside that silence is power, not the kind that demands attention, but the kind that commands it. Because when someone who usually feels deeply stops expressing anything at all, you know something has shifted permanently. The Sigma empath doesn't need to prove a point. Their stillness already says everything. It says, "I've seen enough." It says, "You've revealed yourself." It says, "I'm done." And that realization hits harder than any argument could. People often confuse silence with surrender, but for a Sigma empath, silence is the moment they take back every ounce of energy they once gave away. This quiet reaction disarms manipulators, shocks narcissists, and confuses anyone who feeds on emotional responses. Because suddenly the empath's empathy has boundaries, their calm is no longer your comfort, it's their protection. What makes it so terrifying is that there's no warning, no explosion, just a sudden stillness where warmth used to be. And once that silence arrives, it's final. It means the emotional door has closed, the connection has faded, and there's no coming back. In that quiet, the Sigma empath becomes something else, composed, unshakable, and untouchably strong. Their anger no longer seeks to be understood, it seeks to understand. And once they see the truth clearly, they stop needing closure altogether. That's why their silence isn't weakness. It's the sound of evolution, the exact moment they stop being controlled by emotion and start mastering it. They process emotions internally, turning pain into understanding before reacting. The Sigma empath's first instinct isn't to fight back, it's to feel everything quietly. When pain hits, they don't rush to defend or explain themselves. They retreat inward, not to escape, but to translate what just happened. While most people react instantly, they process in silence, replaying words, dissecting intentions, and tracing the emotion back to its source. This internal alchemy is what separates them from everyone else. Their pain doesn't stay raw, it becomes information. Every heartbreak teaches them how people operate, every disappointment sharpens their insight, and every betrayal strengthens their emotional armor. It's not that they don't feel deeply, they feel too deeply, but instead of letting that intensity consume them, they learn to channel it into clarity. When they're quiet, it's not suppression, it's analysis. They're observing, mapping out patterns, and deciding what the lesson is. They know that every emotional storm carries a message, and once they find it, the storm loses its power. Their stillness during chaos isn't indifference, it's wisdom in motion. Because when a Sigma empath finally reacts, it's not impulsive, it's calculated, rooted in full emotional awareness. People often misunderstand this calmness. They think the empath doesn't care, when in truth, They're processing everything in real time. The tone, the energy, the unspoken motives, they might seem distant, but inside, they're decoding the entire situation, piece by piece. And by the time they respond, their emotions have already evolved into understanding. That's why their words hit differently. They come from reflection, not reaction. This ability to transform pain into insight is what makes Sigma Empaths so powerful. They don't hold grudges, they hold lessons. They don't seek revenge, they seek meaning. Every emotional wound becomes a map that leads them closer to self-mastery, and that's what makes them untouchable. You can't control someone who understands their emotions better than anyone else. By the time others are still tangled in chaos, the Sigma Empath has already found peace through perspective. Their inner world becomes their sanctuary, a place where emotions are not feared but refined. That's the real strength of a Sigma Empath. They don't just survive pain, they elevate through it. When they're hurt, they withdraw instead of attacking. When a Sigma Empath feels pain, the world expects them to lash out, argue, or make noise, but they don't. They disappear, not out of weakness, but out of instinct. Their withdrawal isn't avoidance, it's protection, because they know that in the heat of emotion, words can become weapons, and once released, they can't be taken back. So instead of fighting, they retreat into silence, a sacred space where they can feel everything without performance, where they can process the truth without interference. That quiet exit is their way of saying, I won't let your chaos become my identity. In that silence, they rebuild. The Sigma Empath doesn't seek revenge or validation. They seek understanding. They go deep into themselves, reflecting on what happened, what it revealed, and how to rise stronger. It's a kind of emotional detox. They strip away guilt, confusion, and anger until all that remains is clarity. And when they finally resurface, they're calmer, colder, and sharper than before. That's what makes their withdrawal so unnerving. People realize too late that silence wasn't surrender, it was transformation. Manipulators and emotional takers hate this about Sigma Empaths, because you can't guilt trip someone who's learned to find peace in solitude. You can't provoke someone who refuses to engage. Their silence becomes a mirror, showing others their own behavior without saying a word. It forces reflection or discomfort, depending on what kind of person you are. Those who wrong them often mistake this quiet for weakness, but the truth is, it's the calm before rebirth. While others waste energy trying to prove a point, Sigma Empaths invested in growth. Their withdrawal is strategic, it keeps their dignity intact and their energy clean, and when they finally move on, they don't carry bitterness, they carry wisdom. That's why when they leave, they never come back the same. Their silence healed them, and that healing made them untouchable. To the world, they might seem distant, but to themselves, they've found peace, a kind that doesn't need apologies or closure, because once a Sigma Empath chooses withdrawal over reaction, they stop being controlled by pain and start being guided by power. Their calmness exposes everyone else's chaos. The Sigma Empath doesn't need to confront people to reveal who they really are. Their calmness does it for them. When everything around them starts falling apart, they remain centered, grounded, and almost unnervingly composed. And that stillness acts like a mirror. The louder someone is, the more the Sigma Empath's silence exposes it. The more someone tries to manipulate or control, the more their calm makes that desperation obvious. People who thrive on drama can't stand being around a Sigma Empath because their balance reveals just how unstable others truly are. It's an energy shift that can't be faked. The Sigma Empath's calm isn't performative, it's the result of emotional mastery. They've learned that reacting to every storm only makes it stronger, so instead, they observe. They absorb the tension in the room, but they don't let it take root inside them. This control makes people uncomfortable, especially those used to power through chaos. Because when someone doesn't rise to your bait, when they stay silent, steady, and unshaken, your tactics lose their impact. Their calm forces others to face their own noise. This is why manipulators, narcissists, and emotionally unstable people often clash with Sigma Empaths. The empath's energy doesn't match their chaos, and that imbalance exposes truth. Suddenly, the loud one looks insecure, the manipulator looks desperate, the fake confidence starts to crumble, and all the Sigma Empath does is stay still. They don't need to prove who's right. Their peace proves who's authentic. The irony is, this calm wasn't always natural. It was earned, forged through years of overreacting, overcaring, and overfeeling. The Sigma empath learned that chaos loses its power once you stop feeding it. So now their calmness isn't passivity, it's strength disguised as serenity. It's a message that says, you can try to shake me, but I'm not built on noise anymore. And that's why their calmness feels intimidating, because it's not emptiness, it's dominance without aggression. It's the energy of someone who knows themselves so deeply that no one else's storm can pull them under. In a world addicted to drama, the Sigma empath's calm isn't just rare, it's revolutionary. They channel anger into self-improvement, not revenge. When a Sigma empath gets hurt, they don't seek revenge, they seek transformation. Their anger doesn't explode outward, it turns inward, becoming fuel. They take every insult, betrayal, or disappointment and quietly feed it into their growth. Where others waste energy proving a point, the Sigma empath redirects that same energy toward evolution, physically, mentally, emotionally. They rebuild themselves in silence, while the people who hurt them stay exactly where they were. That's the poetic justice of the Sigma empath. Their success becomes their revenge, and their peace becomes the ultimate power move. They've learned that reacting gives power away, but progress takes it back. When someone wrongs them, they don't say, "I'll show you." They say, "I'll show myself." And that difference changes everything. Instead of obsessing over being understood or vindicated, they focus on becoming so strong, calm, and self-aware that no one's chaos can touch them again. Their anger becomes discipline, their heartbreak becomes focus, and their silence becomes productivity. They rise quietly, and by the time the world notices, it's too late. They've already outgrown the battlefield. This mindset unnerves people who expected the Sigma empath to break. They mistake calm for weakness, only to realize later that silence was training. While others argue online, drown in emotion, or chase validation, the Sigma empath is building, studying, improving, and mastering their inner world. That's why their comebacks are so powerful. They don't just return stronger, they return transformed. And the person who once tried to hurt them becomes irrelevant, a forgotten footnote in their evolution. The Sigma empath's growth is personal, not performative. They don't post about their healing or announce their progress. They simply change. Their body language shifts, their focus sharpens, and their aura becomes unshakable. People who once underestimated them start feeling uncomfortable around them. Not because the empath changed overnight, but because they evolved silently. This is the quiet revenge no one expects. The Sigma empath doesn't destroy people. They destroy the version of themselves that tolerated them. Their anger isn't loud, it's laser focused. It builds them into someone who no longer reacts because they've learned to rise instead. And that kind of growth, it's unstoppable. People fear their silence because it mirrors truth without words. There's something haunting about the silence of a Sigma empath. It doesn't just fill the air, it exposes it. When they stop speaking, people start to feel uncomfortable, not because of what's said, but because of what's felt. Their silence reflects truth back at people like a mirror, stripping away every excuse, lie, and emotional mask. Most can't handle that reflection. They see their own intentions, their own contradictions, and suddenly the quiet becomes unbearable. That's the unspoken power of the Sigma empath. They don't need confrontation to reveal deceit, their stillness does the work for them. You can't hide behind words when someone sees straight through your energy. A Sigma empath's silence carries a kind of emotional X-ray. When they stop responding, it's not because they don't have something to say, it's because they already know. They've read the tone, the micro-expression, the hesitation, and in that moment of quiet, they're deciding what your truth really is. That's what makes their silence so unnerving. It feels like judgment, but it's not. It's awareness. And awareness in the hands of someone emotionally intelligent feels like exposure to those who live behind illusions. People who rely on manipulation or control can't stand it. They crave reaction, noise, arguments, proof they still have influence. But the Sigma empath's silence denies them that satisfaction. It leaves them powerless. They begin to realize that no matter what they say, it won't move the empath anymore. And that realization burns. Because silence in this context isn't avoidance, it's dominance. It's emotional superiority without arrogance, the kind of strength that doesn't need to announce itself. What most never understand is that this silence wasn't built overnight. It was earned, forged through years of feeling too much, explaining too much, and caring too deeply. The Sigma Empath has simply learned that truth doesn't need to be shouted, it only needs to be seen. And when they fall quiet, everyone around them starts to see it, maybe for the first time. That's why their silence is terrifying. It doesn't destroy anyone, it reveals them. And once a Sigma Empath sees the truth clearly, words become unnecessary because silence has already spoken louder than anything ever could. Their emotional control makes manipulation impossible. You can't manipulate someone who has mastered their emotions. And that's exactly what makes Sigma Empaths untouchable. They've felt every version of betrayal, guilt, and emotional pressure, and they've learned to stay centered through it all. Where most people react instantly to guilt trips, love bombing, or subtle gaslighting, the Sigma Empath pauses, they take a breath, observe, and notice. That pause alone ruins every manipulator's plan because manipulation relies on reaction. But when faced with calm emotional control, those tactics lose all power. The Sigma Empath's emotional control didn't come from being cold, it came from surviving chaos. They've been the one who overgave, who tried to fix everything, who carried other people's pain until it nearly broke them. But they learned. They realized that not every emotion deserves an audience, and not every argument deserves engagement. Now, instead of being dragged into other people's storms, they become the eye of it, still, aware, and completely unmoved. Manipulators can sense it instantly. They'll try to provoke a response to break through that composure, but the Sigma Empath won't flinch. Their peace is their power, and their detachment is their defense. What makes this control so formidable is its silence. There's no dramatic resistance, no confrontation, just subtle disengagement. The Sigma Empath will listen, nod, maybe even smile, but their intuition is already decoding every word. They can sense emotional manipulation the way others sense tone. They'll pick up on shifts, inconsistencies, and hidden motives before you've even finished your sentence. And once they've seen through it, they mentally step back, cutting the invisible strings that anyone tried to pull. People used to controlling others through guilt or emotional games don't know what to do with this kind of strength. The Sigma Empath doesn't argue, they simply stop responding. Their calm makes chaos look childish. Their neutrality makes manipulation look desperate. And that's why emotional control is their ultimate weapon. Not loud, not aggressive, but deeply psychological. The beauty of this mastery is that it doesn't cage their emotions, it frees them. They still feel deeply, but they choose what's worth feeling for. That's why you can't manipulate a Sigma Empath anymore. Their emotions no longer control them, they control their emotions. Once they've mastered calm anger, they become untouchable. The most dangerous version of a Sigma Empath is the one who's learned to stay calm while angry. That's when emotion turns into mastery, when they stop reacting and start responding with precision. This calm anger doesn't burn things down, it rebuilds boundaries, resets priorities, and rewires the way they see the world. Once a Sigma Empath reaches this level, they stop giving anyone power over their peace. They've been through enough emotional chaos to know that losing control only feeds the wrong people. Now they operate like still water, deep, silent, and impossible to disturb. Calm anger isn't suppression, it's transformation. It's the moment a Sigma Empath channels every ounce of pain, betrayal, and exhaustion into growth. They no longer seek revenge, validation, or closure. Their revenge is evolution. Their validation comes from peace. Their closure comes from walking away without a word. People who once thrived on seeing them emotional now find themselves invisible because the empath's focus has shifted entirely inward. They don't need to prove they've healed. Their calmness proves it for them. And that's what makes them untouchable. Emotional manipulators, narcissists, and toxic personalities rely on chaos to control others. But when someone like the Sigma Empath refuses to play, the entire power dynamic collapses. Their calmness becomes a shield, not because they don't care, but because they've learned that care must be protected. You can't guilt them anymore. You can't provoke them. You can't even reach them through the same old tactics. Their emotional detachment isn't coldness, it's self-respect in its final form. This transformation doesn't make them emotionless, it makes them sovereign. They feel everything, but nothing owns them anymore. Their energy becomes sacred, their silence unshakable, and their presence magnetic. People sense it the moment they walk in, that grounded, balanced intensity that says, I've been through fire and now I am the flame. When a Sigma empath masters calm anger, they evolve into something rare, someone who's no longer reactive, only responsive, and that's what makes them unstoppable. Because once peace replaces rage, there's nothing left to control, nothing left to fear, and no one left who can touch them again. When a Sigma empath reaches this stage, they don't just survive, they ascend. Their silence speaks volumes, their calm becomes their armor, and their boundaries turn into unshakable walls of self-respect. They no longer chase closure, validation, or understanding. They simply exist above the noise. And that's what makes them untouchable in a world addicted to reaction. If you've ever felt that quiet transformation, when anger no longer burns, it focuses, then you already know what true power feels like. It's not loud, it's not violent, it's steady. The Sigma empath doesn't destroy their enemies. They outgrow them so completely that they become irrelevant. So if this message resonates with you, it's because you've been there, calm, strong, and unshaken in a storm that once consumed you. That's not coldness, that's mastery. Before you go, make sure to subscribe to Brainy Empath and join a community of souls who feel deeply yet move wisely. And if you've watched until the end, comment calm power below so I'll know you're one of the few who've learned how silence can become strength.